Together words from 13 Shakespeare plays along with her own poetic prose. Lowri Amies' solo show explores grief and the many stages it can take. Words, words, words is the result of the actor's own personal loss, which Lowri is now preparing to share with audiences as part of the Vaults Festival. It's great to see you again. Thank you for coming in. Just give us a sense of where this comes from, because you've gone through a difficult time in your life.
Yes, it came out of my own desire to actually express what I was feeling. Words had always been something that I'd found encapsulated my emotions. I could find the exact word, and it's something that my mum and I shared because we're both linguists, and she used to teach me French and things like that. But then when she passed away, there was no single word or even a collection of words which would describe how I felt, apart from those of Shakespeare. And being a massive Shakespeare fan, these words sort of came to me when I was in the middle of the night, when I couldn't sleep, when I was on the tube, things like that. And Shakespeare's words seemed to express something that I couldn't. So I just wrote them down and then left it. And then a few years later, I started thinking about this and thought, I wonder if there is a word, I wonder if there is a way of expressing myself. And the play is an exploration of that. And it takes the form of exploring the 7 stages of grief alongside the sort of seven ages of man as explored by Shakespeare. So it's all kind of interwoven.
Yeah, just tell us how you've kind of analysed those prose from Shakespeare to pick out what those stages are.
Well, it's sort of, what I began doing was I began then harvesting these quotations that were coming to mind and putting them under the stages, the sort of 7 stages of grief model, with which I sort of take issue in the show, the idea that we can box up our emotions and put them under labels. And so it's mainly through those words, it's less of an analysis and more of the words literally sort of come out of nowhere and surge forwards and then sort of recede again, and they're completely interwoven. So it's sort of, they're all the speeches which are sort of about denial, but there are little snippets which are also interwoven within my own stories, which if you're a fan you might like to spot as well.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, as an actor it's often very easy to tell other people's stories, but how hard is it to share your stories within those Shakespeare stories?
Very, very hard. Right. So it's something that's interesting. My friend and dramaturg, when we looked at this, noticed that I just used the Shakespeare and was trying to weave something together simply out of Shakespeare, and she said, I think we need those stories, Lowri. Maybe it starts with your grandfather, and was sort of pushing me towards it. And it wasn't until I began actually exploring those things that I began playing with words and beginning to find that there may not be a single word for it, but these memories are triggered by these words that I was finding. So it was kind of an exploratory process for me as well. But yes.
I mean, there is that obviously very famous phrase, lost for words, and it is at times of grief that we can be really lost for words. Do you find other people in the audience can relate to that experience that you had, where you I think you've described it as language, you lost your language in a way?
The best thing that happened that came out of this show is that a man was waiting for me when I performed it back in 2016 outside Leicester Square Theatre after one of my performances, and he'd come back. He'd been there the night before with his wife, and he said he wanted to say thank you because his wife had not been able to process some emotions relating to her mum's death 10 years previously, and simply by sort of hearing someone else say it out loud, she'd been able to begin that journey for herself. And it's not about showcasing my grief or telling people, it's okay, or this is the model to follow and you'll come back to life again, because you can never bring the people back to life, only the memories. And that, for me, I felt, yes, the audience seems to really relate to it, which is why I'm doing it again.
Yeah, beautifully told. Lowri Amies there, who is bringing words, words, words to the Vaults Festival. It's at Waterloo East Theatre. It is there from the 28th of February until the 4th of March. Lovely to see you again. Thank you for joining us. Right, you're watching London Live News. Stay with us.